Hi, my name's Galen. We're going to try something new here. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a little while, and it's basically, I'm combining my love-hate relationship of YouTube, podcast, streaming, and just videos in general online with my absolute love of D&D. Well, this is in part inspired by another guy named Spoony. You may or may not know him, but he runs his own show. Hasn't done too much in a while, though. But I really like his stuff, and I thought it would be fun to try it out. And I think I got a pretty good first video topic. And it's on wrestling characters in D&D. Specifically 5th edition. So this kind of came up from a friend of mine. And that friend he basically messaged me saying, hey, would it be alright if I, reflavored the monk into a boxer class? And I was like, yeah, sure, man, go ahead. If it, as long as it's not something that, doesn't fit in our campaign setting, which most stuff does, then, all power to you. You rock that. You do it. But may I suggest a fighter or barbarian? And he was like, I thought about those, but they don't seem to scale as well. And I was like, well, yeah, the monk gets, a d10 damage die. We'll get on that later. But you could easily, with, feet and the right, skill selection, the barbarian and fighter could scale pretty dang well too. You grab tavern, brawler. Barbarian gets bonus damage whenever they make a strength attack, and the fighter gets a bunch of extra attacks. That's the fighter's thing, man. They get to punch a lot. But he still wasn't convinced, and, well, I can kind of see why. When you think of unarmed fighting in D&D, monk is what comes to mind. They're good at that. And that's in part because of their martial die ability. It's a class feature. You see, when the monk hits certain levels, they get this upgrade to a thing called a martial arts die. They start off with only a d4, but, level 5, it goes up to d6, and all the way at, 20, we're talking endgame monk, it's a d10. And with that martial arts die, it basically means that if a monk makes an attack with a weapon that is, considered a monk attack, either with, a simple weapon, such as, a club, or a nunchuck if you have reflavored one, an armed attack, or even certain martial weapons, if you're the right type of monk, such as a Kensai, the Kensai monk can use martial weapons too, then if the damage die on the weapon you're using is less than your martial die, you can replace it with the martial arts die. Now this is cool. This is a cool feature, and it means at endgame monk, you're level 20 monk, you're punching a dude for a d10 of damage. That's a fuck ton of damage. That's more than any one-handed weapon, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there's a single one-handed weapon that's a d10. That's a two-handed longsword. A greatsword does more damage, and there are weapons that do more damage, but not by a lot. Like the barbarian and fighter, yeah, they can use a lance, they can use a great axe, they can use a great hammer. It's a maul, I think. They can use great sword. Those are all 2d6 or d12 weapons. But they're still two-handed, they weigh stuff, or they're pretty heavy. The bigger weapons are pretty damn heavy. And you can be disarmed from them, the list goes on. A little bit of bonus damage. It's still good, don't get me wrong. It's still great. Fucking fighter with a two-handed greatsword. Whoa! That fucking level 20 fighter is gonna fucking kick your ass. But the monk, they do unarmed fighting, and they do it way better than any other class. Or so I thought. Because here's the thing. Wrestlers, fighters, they're strong. This character in specific, I don't know if I mentioned this already, well, he was based off of Balrog from Street Fighter, and I don't know if you've seen pictures of that guy, but his fucking, his arm, his bicep, is larger than most people's heads. He's tough. He's fucking strong. Right? he doesn't really think. I don't look at that character and see monk. Now, if he wants to go monk, all power to him. I'm not stopping him. I just want. I don't want this idea that monks are the only people that can that can fight with unarmed combat. And here's what we dove into. So, with a monk, let's say you are shit, something just fell down. Let's say you are doing a wrestler kind of thing in your monk. Your best bet's probably open hand. Now, the reason for that is it's the hand-to-hand combat like archetype for 5e. All the other ones, they have kind of like mystical elements mixed in. Like tranquility, their features are like healing and such. Shadow monks can they can teleport in darkness and just like, cast move silently or create pools of darkness with their key points. You can just ninjutsu some fucking abyss into, wherever you're looking at. Fucking crazy. Let's see. Yeah, and then Kensai monk is like sword fighting and shit. Like Kensai isn't. You don't take Kensai for fucking unarmed combat. You don't. The whole point of taking Kensai is so you can use a fucking greatsword as a monk. Who doesn't want to use a greatsword as a monk? I do. You take open hand if you want to do wrestling, and the reason for that is the open hand technique. It's got three features to it, and basically whenever you punch someone, more or less, I think you have to flurry of blows to do this, but you get to choose one of three effects. You can, attempt to knock them prone, attempt to knock them back, or they can't take reactions until their next turn. These are pretty useful. The prone and knockback thing, you could totally say are pretty wrestling flavored. And they're strong. But wisdom and dex are monk stats. They're what you prioritize when you take monk. Strength and con are much more wrestling related, in my opinion. You want to be beefy, you want to take hits, you want to give hits. And personally, the barbarian and the fighter in my opinion, they do a pretty decent job. Because what the monks really got going for it over them is mobility. I did a little bit of math, and the fighter can actually take on the monk in terms of damage with unarmed fighting. You need tavern brawler, and at points you're a little bit behind, but at other points you're ahead by a lot. At level 20, let's assume that both the monk and the fighter, all their attacks hit. The fighter outdamages the monk by a shit ton for the first couple of rounds, and then the monk doesn't catch up until 13 rounds of combat have passed. I don't know about you, but I don't see too many combats last longer than 6 to 8. There are a few, but not many. Now, the barbarian, on the other hand, they're useful for a different type of wrestler. The barbarian has a couple of interesting features. So, the first is that they get rage, and rage is helpful because if you ever make an attack with strength, you gain a small bonus to the damage roll and it increases with level. You also have resistance to damage, so if you want to be a beefy kind of wrestler, you want to take it, then, barbarians are good for you. In addition to that, they have advantage on strength checks and saving throws while raged. The special part about this is that you can do grappling really damn well as a barbarian. Not every type of fighter wants to make use of grappler, but it's an interesting feat. There are some cool builds out there for using grappler. Now, if you don't know what grappler does, I have the write-up right here. Basically, when you're grappling something, you have advantage on attack rolls against it, and you can use your action to try and pin the creature that you are grappling. You make another grapple check, and if you succeed, you are both restrained. Now, this second feature isn't as useful as... Well, I take that back. It's more situationally useful than the first. The first is good in pretty much any situation for the person grappling. Because, obviously, if you have this feat, you're grappling. That's your thing. You're the grappler. You grab people. And you get advantage on attack rolls against them if you're grabbing them. So you punch the shit out of them. That means if you're a barbarian, you basically have advantage on every roll. You have advantage from your rage on the check to grab the dude, and then you have advantage on every single attack roll against him, because he's grabbed. And that second part, you could use that. It requires some teamwork to make use of this one, though, because you're restrained to 2. It's a useful thing, but one of the other issues with it is that with grappling, you can only ever grapple something up to large, unless you're a large-sized PC, but I don't know any of those by raw. And we kind of have to talk raw here. So you can do some pretty damn cool stuff with this, and then if you mix in, tavern brawler, which is another great feat, you can get some pretty cool, customized stuff here. In my opinion, Barbarian is good for a wrestler, but it's not good if you want to be a damage output guy. This is more utility. You get resistance to damage, you can grapple people really easily, you put grappler on that, you can restrain people hella easy. You got your reckless attacks too. Of course, you can do some even cooler stuff with this. You could do Berserker for the extra attacks. The personally Berserker isn't really all that great in my opinion, mostly because of that exhaustion. For those of you who don't know, the Berserker class feature for Barbarians, you can make an extra attack with your bonus action on each turn, but when your rage ends, you get exhaustion. It's a pretty heavy penalty because you want to be using your rage a lot, and later levels of Barbarian, you can have up to 6 rages per day. You can have unlimited rages per day, unless you're Berserker. Then you only get about 3. Because after the 3rd rage, you have disadvantage on attacks. And at that point, you kind of want to stop. Raging. But, Battle Rager. This is a cool one. This is Dwarves only in official stuff. If you play Adventures League, you have to play Dwarf to do this, but not every game. This archetype has special kind of spiked armor, and you can make a bonus action attack with your armor to deal damage, and and additionally, when you grapple a creature, they take 3 piercing damage as well, because you're grabbing them and you're covered in spikes. That's pretty damn cool. So, Barbarian makes a great grappling kind of, wrestler. The monk can still be a great wrestler if you want to play that kind of, feint and dodge kind of one, in my opinion. You could obviously put strength into a monk, but it's not standard. And obviously, we aren't talking about standard things here, but generally monks go for dex and wisdom. Those are good stats because, as a monk, that's what your AC is based off of, and most of your class features scale off of those. With the monk, the thing that they offer over, barbarian and fighter, and they can all punch pretty damn well if you tool them right. The monk gets mobility though. They get move speed per class level, and I think at one point the monk can run up walls. You see that wall over there? You can fucking spider your way up that shit. You can run over water too, I'm pretty sure. You're Jesus for 6 seconds of time. I don't think you can stop on the water. Pretty sure you can't stop on the wall or the water. So if if there's a 3,000 foot wall over there, you're not getting any higher up than 100 feet tops, even if you dash. You're gonna fall. I'm pretty sure on water you'll fall back in if you're on it when your round ends. But for short distances, you can fucking sprint across that shit. You're, like I said, you're Jesus for 6 seconds at a time. They get, great mobility. And they have some other cool options too. They are great in unarmed combat, but they're not the only ones that are good at it. And there's the fighter. The fighter can do some really damn cool shit too. Now, the thing that keeps the fighter competitive with the monk in this is that they get more attacks. Which, the monk has the higher damage die for their unarmed attacks, taking all the way up to D10, but, at, let's say we're 20th level, sure, the monk does D10, and the fighter does D4, but the monk's got 2 attacks in its normal turn, whereas the fighter's got 4. Now, there's some other cool things as well. We talked about open hand for the monk, and open hand is, great and all, but you can also do Battle Master for the fighter, which, in my opinion, gives you some really fucking cool stuff to do as a wrestler. You got some cool ass shit. I don't know if you, Battle Master is the fighter in my opinion. Champion is pretty standard, and it's good to, start off with. It's easy. Battle Master is not so easy. There's a lot to keep track of, but it is the fighter. There is so much cool stuff. You have all these maneuvers. that you can do during combat, and there's so much cool shit. This is great for wrestler. Fucking disarming them is useful if you want to bring someone to your level. Evasive footwork, you can move around the fucking arena. Feinting attack, and you want to, dodge their blow and then fucking punch them right back. Lunging attack, maybe you want to get that, really, that good hook. There's some cool shit. Pushing attack, you can push, just like Open Fist Monk. There's a sweeping attack, which can knock prone. Or no, sorry, trip attack, which can knock prone. Sweeping attack is if you want to hit multiple people. You want to fucking clothesline. You want to clothesline some dudes, you sweeping attack. That's fucking great! Like, come on, don't tell me, as a wrestling character, you don't want to fucking clothesline some, goons. Big Bad sends his minions after you. They're fucking, guys in, black hoods and robes, the cultists are after you. And you just fucking, they're sprinting at you. There's two of them coming at you. They got their daggers are drawn. And you just fucking hold out your arms and just jump into them, fucking clock both of them in the face with your biceps. Beautiful. There's some cool stuff you can do with these things. And with, a fighter, if you stack Tavern Brawler on them, they can be pretty competitive with the Monk's damage. Obviously, Monk is still, they're still probably the best in the long run. And that's because that's what their class is geared for. But if you're trying to do something, with a unique style or flavor, it's not your only option. Let's look at Tavern Brawler real quick. Tavern Brawler is really the bread and butter thing that lets people do unarmed fighting if they're not a monk. Basically, strength or con goes up by 1. That's useful. Damage die for unarmed weapons becomes a d4. That's useful. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike or an improvised weapon, you can use a bonus action to grapple them. Going back to that Barbarian, although a fighter could use this too. Monk probably could. But the thing with monks is, like I said, you probably don't have too many points in strength. Dex and wisdom are probably your focuses, and let's be real, who doesn't put points into con? Hit points are nice. You might have a 12 or 14 strength, you might have a small bonus, you might have proficiency in it, so you'll be okay, but you're not as good as the fighter, and you're definitely not as good as the barbarian. If there's a barbarian that can't out-grapple you at the same level, they're doing something wrong, frankly. They fucked up. Conan fucked up. So, the Tavern Brawler feat is pretty damn useful, and they also are proficient with improvised weapons. I don't know if I said that or not, I might have skipped that. But, the fucking classic wrestling move. You want to bat some dude across the head with a fucking chair. You can do that. You can fucking do that. You don't have any penalties. You're in a tavern, you're mad at some dude, that chair, that's looking just as good to you as a fucking maul is. I mean, you're probably gonna get at least a d6 or a d8 damage die off of that. I mean, hopefully your GM is somewhat generous there, because the rule with improvised weapons is that they you go with the weapon they're probably most similar to, unless there isn't one at all, and they do a d4. A d4 is, obviously it's not awful, but come on, you could probably stretch that if you're a Tavern Brawler, a chair is about, on par with a great club for you. They're both giant fucking hunks of wood. Come on, let me beat some dude in with a chair. Give me that. I want to beat some dude with a chair. Tavern Brawler's for you. You use Tavern Brawler and you can make these classes competitive. Obviously, if you're taking this feat, you have to give one to the monk too. But Tavern Brawler's not really all that great on monks. Mostly because the unarmed strike thing is pretty useless, and, well, the rest of it's okay. But grappling isn't all that great on monks, and, strength isn't really a useful ability stat. Con is okay, but Tavern Brawler is really better for fighters or barbarians, at least, strength fighters, because you can do dex fighter. Well, so monk in that case would get another feat of their choice, but, in terms of a monk, you're probably going to take something like mobile. Probably going to get even more move speed. You're going to, Barry Allen, fastest man alive. There are a lot of good options for monk. In fact, you could probably take, it's not resilient. Is it sturdy or some shit? Tough, I think, that gives you extra hit points per level. You could probably take tough. That way you have a little bit more hit points, because, one of the other things the fighter and barbarian got over you, they each got a bigger hit point die. Monk's a d8, fighter's a d10, barbarian's a d12. It's a fucking locomotive. If you want to, if you're setting up for your teammates, then barbarian is the way to go. If you want to, like, do damage on your own, then fighter and monk, they're still, they're still both up there. Fighter is definitely pretty competitive. So there's a lot you can do with these. Every one of these classes works. Don't be tricked into thinking monk is the only way to do unarmed fighting, especially for wrestler, because there's 3 kinds of unarmed fighting in my book. There's there's emergency unarmed fighting. You don't want to do this. This is for people who don't want to unarmed fight. This is when your weapon's gone. You're captured. Maybe you're in prison breaking, or some dude disarms you in combat, and you don't want to pick up your weapon. It takes an action to pick up your weapon. By Raw, I'm pretty sure. Disarming's powerful, especially if you have lots of extra attacks. If you're a fighter, disarming's a bitch because you just replace one of your attacks with disarm. All right, and if you're a battle master, you don't even have to replace the attack. It's part of your attack if you're a battle master. But if someone's disarmed, their damage drops significantly. They do have a chance to not be disarmed. There's a save, I'm pretty sure, or a roll. It might be athletics, maybe just strength. Pretty sure it's a save though. I'm pretty sure it's a strength save. Not positive. But disarming hurts. And if you get disarmed, if you the player get disarmed, and DMs, you pay attention to this. Disarming is a good tool to really fuck with people who are reliant on their weapons. Because their damage drops a lot. You lose a lot of damage without your fucking, great sword. You see Conan the fucking Barbarian, you see him with your sword, and you're like, fuck no, I'm not fighting Conan, but without the sword, well, you probably still don't want to fight Conan, but, he's not as scary without the sword. Well, bad example. It's fucking Conan. Long story short, without the weapon, people lose their effectiveness, and, sometimes you resort to emergency unarmed fighting, and this is the real weakness of, unarmed fighting. Because the raw unarmed combat, damage is 1 plus strength. That's not a lot. Every single weapon does more than that. A dagger's a D4. Every single weapon has, larger damage than that, and it makes sense. Then there's monk unarmed fighting. This is the kind of, quick, accurate jabs to, pressure points or, key vital areas of the body, neck, heart, maybe arm joints, stuff like that, incapacitate and deal extra damage. These are, quick, precise, exactly where they need to be, no more force than is necessary to, inflict the damage you need. And this is great for, some kind of wrestler too. Maybe you want to be light scrappy dude, fucking David versus Goliath, just, without the sling. It works. But then there's the beefy kind of unarmed fighting. This is where you have the high strength score. And this is doable. Fighters and barbarians, you can do this. Mark my words, if you want to be a fucking macho wrestler, you can do it. I did, he wanted, my friend wasn't sold when I told him that, barbarians and fighters were, still pretty damn viable late game. And I did all the math on it. Let's look at, monk. Let's assume, we're 20th level, 20 dex. And let's say, each class, they dedicate their bonus action to punching. Technically, by Raw, only the monk can use a bonus action to punch. The fighter cannot. It's a shame, and it really depends on your DM if they allow it. To be fair, if you're doing unarmed fighting only, I don't see a reason why this wouldn't be allowed, but in case your DM doesn't allow it, then use your bonus action to grapple instead. But let's assume that they're punching, and you don't have grappler. You're not grappling. Let's assume they're just punching, because I did this math for my player, where they can punch. A monk with 20 dex and no flurry of blows, so no key points spent, has 3 attacks at level 20. And they average, they have a d10 plus 5 damage, 20 dex. So d10's average damage is 5.5 plus 5, that's 10.5, that's 31.5 damage per round, assuming all hits. With flurry, that goes up to 42, because you had another 10.5 in there. And then you got the fighter. 20 strength, no tavern brawler. That's 6 damage average per hit, 1 plus 5. Let's say 5 attacks per round. 4, if you're not doing the bonus action, that's 30 damage per round. That's still close to the monk without Flurry of Blows, but obviously the monk, at level 20 monk, they're going to drop Flurry of Blows left and right. They got 20 key points. With Tavern Brawler, though, you have the D4, so 2.5 average damage, goes up to 7.5 per attack, 5 attacks, 37.5. You're outdoing the monk without Flurry of Blows, and with Flurry, you're not far behind. They're still going ahead of you, but they're not far behind. But here's the thing. This is where the fighter comes in. Fucking love me some fighter. Action Surge. You got 2 of these at level 20. Got 4 attacks. This shit hurts. Fighter, 20 strength, no Tavern Brawler, Action Surges. 6 damage per attack. That's either 8 or 9 attacks. I did 9 for this. Once again, for my player. If you can't, just grapple instead. Make use of that fucking grappler feat. That's 54 damage per round. You add Tavern Brawler on top of that, for that extra 2.5, times 9. That's 67.5. That outdoes the monk by a lot. That's good. Now, you only have 2 action surges, and you can't use them on the same turn, but here's the thing. At level 20, assume 20 strength and you're hitting, this is just theory stuff, the fighter outdamages the monk all the way up until round 13. At 13 rounds into combat, the fighter would have done 470.5 damage, monk would have done 546. I think I said that wrong. 547 versus 546. Yeah, okay, there we go. After that, the monk starts to, surpass 588 versus 585. Now, these are all theoretical, of course, but I just, obviously, this isn't exactly what's going to happen in combat, but I wanted to show that the fighter could still be competitive. They can. If you want to be a fucking strength-based fighter, you can do it. You can do it. And Battlemaster makes for some pretty damn cool wrestling moves. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to touch on, and it was custom classes. Now, 5th edition, it's homebrew friendly. It really is. A lot of stuff is left ad hoc, and it's on purpose. And there's lots of examples and guidelines for how to create your own stuff. And custom stuff is great. I mean, lots of people use homebrew stuff, home rules, and homebrew content. I do. I have 40-something pages on Google Sheets of homebrew stuff. I fucking love homebrew stuff. I feel like it really makes my game better. I have an entire goddamn thing that is for crafting that's got every single item in the game plus more and how to make them. The DCs for it, the materials you need, how long it takes. I did that because it's cool. I have stuff for taming. Homebrew stuff is great. And classes can be cool too. You can have some cool homebrew classes. But here's the thing. You can't always use them. If you're in a situation where you're playing with a lot of friends, and you're in that friend circle, and you play in that circle a lot, you probably can. I play with the same friends. I have 2 sessions, sometimes more, but I run 2. And my rules are always the same in that, because they're in the same setting. And so, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do, fucking guns. I got guns in there. Got a couple of gunfighters. Mounted combat is great. Fucking everyone can tame shit, but the hunters, oh boy. The Beastmasters. Hunter's a different archetype. The Beastmasters' pets are fucking scary now. Homebrew can be cool. But let's say you're in Adventures League, which is, I think, the official Wizards of the Coast D&D stuff. It's raw only. It's only Wizards of the Coast stuff. It's only official stuff. Which means custom classes aren't allowed. So, unfortunately, this doesn't work. And let's say that, your DM just isn't a fan of it. Doesn't use homebrew content. Well, personally, I think that, you should debate that a little bit. Don't argue. Don't get heated over this. This is not something to get heated over. Don't ever fight over D&D. It's not worth it. But, make a compelling argument. And the DM, understand what your player's trying to say. Help him realize his goals. If you really want to say no, because what he's doing is just, too unreasonable, then maybe offer him some alternatives. Do what I did, Try and find some ways that what he wants to do could be done through raw. Maybe. Or, alter the class as to how you think it should be. Do that. But, like I said, with custom classes, it can be hard to get them to say yes all the time. And, they're not going to, and that's okay. let's say that you're someone that, you know, plays a lot of one-shots. Maybe you play a lot of one-shots in gaming stores, or maybe you're in like a, you know, D&D club. Maybe you're in college and you're at a club, or even high school. I'm in college, I'm in a D&D club. Maybe you know, only play in campaigns for a month or two at a time. Maybe they're relatively short. Lots of one-shots, maybe. That's a lot of different DMs that have to look up that custom class. Very, very, very many are going to say no. Very few are going to say yes. That's just how it is. Which is why I didn't really debate custom classes too much, because I know for a fact that there is at least one wrestler and one luchador class on Dandy Wiki. Good ideas go there to die, but there are at least wrestler and luchador classes on Dandy Wiki. They're probably broken as shit and extremely overpowered, as Dandy Wiki often is, but they're there, and, you know, maybe you could use them as an inspiration to create your own. But you can do it in Raw. You can. There are always trade-offs. Like, obviously the fighter, way fucking better with a greatsword, obviously. Like, that's how it is. But, I mean, if you're playing D&D, you should be playing it to have fun. And if you want to play a fucking wrestler, you should have fun doing it. If you want to be beefy and punch some dude in the jaw, you know, knock his teeth out, like 4 times in a row, you should have fun doing it. And the fighter's a great way to do it. Monk is too. So is Barbarian. All of them are equally cool. And you can multi-class. Hell, I didn't even think of multi-classing until I made this video. You can fucking multi-class. Come on, dude. Like, you drop a level in Monk, and all of a sudden, that, you know, D4 damage die, and that unarmed attack that you can make, they're available to every class that, you know, now, because you have 1 level in Monk. You put, you know, all your other levels somewhere else. Let's say you put, like, you know, 11 in Fighter, you got your 3rd extra attack, and you put a couple in Barbarian, you have a mix of them all. You can grapple better than anyone else. You can, you know, punch people without having to have Tavern Brawler, and you can punch people a lot, like many times in a row. You got 3 attacks and an action surge. Like, you can do it. You aren't restricted to just monks for unarmed fighting. You can do it. And it's cool. It's gonna be great. Trust me. So you go out there and you suplex some fucker. For your boy. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. I'll be trying to do more of these. It was fun. I'll be trying to do a lot more of these. More classes, campaign ideas, just mechanics in general, homebrew stuff. Maybe one of those days I'll fucking make a video on that giant ass Google Sheet stock. Galen's D&D tables. We'll see. Have a good day.